Welcome to the San Bruno Allen Elementary PTA Treasurer tutorial series. The purpose of this series is to show step-by-step my process as the PTA Treasurer for the 2021 and 21-22 school years. Also, I hope that this will help future treasurer transitions. In this video, I will go over the disbursement or payment process. The start of the payment process is a request, and usually it includes a request form and attached backup that could be invoices or receipts. Currently, there are two types of request forms that the Allen PTA uses. One is the reimbursement form that many teachers uses, and it does allow them to enter the list out the expenditure as well as a pre-calculated total. The next form, which I prefer, is the payment authorization form that is available and provided by the 17th District PTA. It has most of the same information as the reimbursement form. The difference is it includes who the payer is supposed to be. Next in the process, after it has been signed and reviewed by either the principal or the president, it comes to the treasurer, and then we put it into a disbursement form report. Typically, the disbursement report goes to the executive board, but there are moments where this list goes to the association, largely just so that we can make payments in between executive board meetings. In the disbursement request, I put in who the payers are, what it is for, a budget, what has been paid in the past. This column is pre-calculated to show what the available balance is and then what is the current request. This does require a motion from the board members, and I typically write out what the motion is. It is to disperse up to the amount as shown here. If it's approved, we then go into the next step. If it's not, this is where the treasurer's duties stop, and the president should take over to explain and discuss the matter with the requester. So once it's been approved, we then complete the form, and part of the form, both forms needs a president's signature as well as the secretary's signature and the date of the approval. This is also where we enter the check number, what category it goes to, and what the amount should be. During the pandemic, I have used DocuSign to send the request forms to the treasurer and the president to sign digitally. If during an in-person meeting, you can have these all ready and together during the meeting and have the president and the secretary sign after the executive board meeting or the association board meeting has been completed. Next, the checks. I typically go in this order in terms of review and getting the request form signed, then having write the checks, and then enter it into the financial system. So for the checks, I fill it out, and then it needs 2 signatures. And this is based on PTA requirement, not the bank's requirement. So therefore, do not issue a blank check. A blank check is when you don't write the amount, you don't write who it is for, and you just sign it, because the bank only needs 1 signature for it to be a valid check. So if you, for whatever reason, lose that check, someone can write their name and write however much they want, and the bank will process it. This is an example of what a check that's been written looks like. I put in the date, who I'm paying, how much it's for. I usually put in what it is for, whether it's the invoice number or a description. I sign on the side, and then I have a second signer, in this case the president, sign it. Next is the entry. I will go over here first. Currently we are using MyPTEZ as our financial system. I then also make a copy of both the payment request form as well as the attachments I scan it so that I have a digital copy. I save a copy by check number and then by vendor name, which I will show later. And then lastly, when the check has been cleared from the bank, I then save a copy of that. Some things to know before we go into the system is that the check number on the check itself and also in the My PTA Easy should match, because that's what helped me prevent duplicate payments, because it does alert me if the check number has been used. Second, the reason why I save a copy of the cleared checks, both the front and the back, is because that the bank only keeps a year of the check image. And I found myself needing to go back and look at the check image from a year ago before I reissue a check. So now let's go to My PT Easy and start the process. If you are using the Treasurer's email, you will see that I have already embedded through Google Chrome certain quick bookmarks. So we're going to go to My PT Easy, log in, put in our information. Once we're in, we will go to Checks, Write Checks. And you see on the right side of the screen that I have the 17th District PTA remittance. The one thing to note is for the 17th District, at the end of each year, we are supposed to remit to them any additional membership, and this does not require executive board or even association board approval, because this is a pass-through payment. And as you can see here at the bottom, that May 30th is the deadline, but in this case, because it occurred later, we're going to write the check now. And I've actually written this before, so I'm just going to go over it on the side. The $4.75 that's due to the 17th District was written on June 25th, and this should agree with what is on the check. I make sure the account number is the Bank of America, because that's our checking account, and that's the only account we run through, even though we also have a savings account. The check payable is 17th District. A lot of times all you need to do is start entering, and you will see a pop-up, and you can double click on it or click on it, or you can hit tab. Next, I want to make sure that the check that I wrote to the 17th District match, and it happens to be I already wrote this check, and it is the 1119. The pass-through account for the expense here is the 17th District PTA membership dues. We enter that, we hit save, and this has been entered. Once the information has been done, what I do is I either use my smartphone or a computer or a printer and scan the document in. I save it into the work paper. This is the 21-22 work paper, and there are 3 folders for payment. So I save it as backup by alpha, because from an auditor's point of view, sometimes when you're looking for backup, you're looking for a specific vendor or a specific payment to, and sometimes you're looking at based on a check number. And since this is this digital copy, it is pretty easy to save it in 2 locations. But I do keep it consistent. I make sure that I have the name of the vendor, the check number, the date that I issue it, the amount, and what it's for. And I have that for every single payment I made during the year. For backup by check number, I then swap it, where I have the check number, the date, the amount, who I paid it to, and a brief description, so that I can look at it without needing to open it. Once the check has been cleared, I usually, as I mentioned, I go to the Bank of America, which is this link here, and I save a copy. I actually first click on the check number, then I hit the front and back image, and then I print as a PDF, and then I save it separately in a separate folder from the vendor, and this is where it says payment check cleared. And I have those checks again by check number first, date, the amount, who it's for, and then when it's cleared. In terms of backup, if there are emails or invoices, I put that in here. And as you can tell on the side, I also enter who the vendors are, and then the date and the check, because this is a copy of what has been filed. In terms of issuing a check, I always get a copy of the check reissuance request, the original version, and this is a copy of that, and any backup information that they have, including the Amazon receipts or actual receipts. I don't know if it's in this particular example, but if I have to, in this particular case, I had to reissue this check because this individual couldn't find their check. I pull the original, I void it, I actually go into the bank to make stop payment. I also get it, as you can see here, the DocuSign signature from both the president and the secretary, because this even for repayment, I send it back through the executive board for them to review. Then I reissue a new check, and again, I put the information on there, and all of this are in the backup. Just a couple of notes in terms of terminologies. Avoid checks are checks that we have written, but we need to cancel because either we need to reissue it or it was a duplicate payment, and therefore we need to void the check. A canceled check is when the check has been cleared by the bank, and that's where this is an example of a canceled check. Some call it cleared. The check has been cleared, but it's terminology-wise is called a canceled check. When we do a reissuance of a check, we want to do stop payment. That is to alert the bank to not pay, even if it's cleared later. One thing to note, however, with stop payment is that it's only valid for 6 months. And then lastly, outstanding checks. These are checks that we have written but has not cleared the bank yet. And that is it for how I process payments. I hope that it has been helpful to you, and hope you will visit one of the other videos as well. Take care.